looks like we've got a while before the Steven Universe movie is finally released, so how's about we take a look back on all the events that got us to this point, shall we? I was originally going to go all the way back to Season 1 for a recap, but in the end I changed my mind. Because Season 5 was the batch of episodes that was the most fresh in my brain and easily one of the most unique seasons to talk about. The various new characters, the huge plot reveals, the changes to the status quo, and so much more. I do plan to backtrack to the previous seasons at some point, but Season 5 is the most involved and interesting in my opinion, so it's going first. Like always, the rankings of each episode will go from 1 to 10 based on story, characters, humor, and other things, with 1 being abysmal and 10 being nearly perfect. You're more than welcome to leave your own rankings for each episode in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to Jello Apocalypse, since he came up with this style of reviewing in the first place. It's a long journey from Earth to Homeworld, so let's get things started with every episode of Steven Universe Season 5 reviewed in 10 words or less. Off we go! Lars looks on the bright side, while on Topaz's underside. Hey, they gave the theory community their own episode. Pat will give this a 7 out of 10. Lars is alive again, and I ain't lying. This title references a newspaper misprint from a presidential election. Greg retains his best character status. Raise this barn, run from your fears. Depressed Paradon is unacceptable! Hug her now! Sadie enjoys singing way too much, and it's great. Come on, dude, Steven looks nothing like Clarence. The Fire Nation called, they want their uniform back. In the jungle, the planet jungle, Stefani shaves her face. As far as recaps go, it's pretty good. Behind the music with Sadie Killer and the Suspects. Character growth, comedy, and kitty cats. Basically the perfect episode. Please tell me he's not renaming it the Big Do-Nut. Lapis spying on people shouldn't be this cute. Predictable reveal, but amazing execution. Nothing much to say. I look into Pink's Rocky Star. Since when is Amethyst the mature voice of reason? Whoopatayo, the littlest cowgirl rides again. Yeah, I'm with Bismuth. Garnet's my favorite couple too. Half adorable wedding, half climactic battle? Should've just picked one. White diamond scares me. Nice shoes though. Pebbles, the ultimate pet rocks. Yellow and Blue Pearl need more screen time. Insert Moana reference here. I have to be perfect. No you don't. Okay, redeemed. Alrighty, let's wrap things up with my top 3 and bottom 3 episodes of the season. The bottom 3 was surprisingly easy, but the top 3 definitely took a bit of thought, and the results might just shock you a bit. Let's do this. Number 3 worst, The Big Show. So, 2 Sadie episodes in the same season, huh? I can get behind that. Sadie is my favorite human character after all, and Sadie Killer was a great dive into the character's psyche and internal woes. So in the end, how does this second production hold up? It's alright. It's a very basic story about Sadie's mom Barb being too clingy, and Sadie needing to deal with the baggage that comes with that. She had some very nice talks with Greg about how great it is to have a parent who's involved in your life, and near the end she even admits that she actually wants her mom to be there. It's sweet, but also kinda stock. I've seen the story of the overly attached parent many times before, and The Big Show doesn't really do much new with it. The parent gets too involved, the child explodes at them, and later they come to the realization that the parent was just trying to help. I'm glad they didn't go with the cliche of the parent running away in tears or anything, but most of it was pretty predictable. I will admit that seeing Greg as a band manager was pretty cool, and he did a fantastic job. The whole documentary style was definitely something unique, and I like the little tidbits, like how the episode changes from grainy quality to high quality when they film the concert, which makes sense since they're using better quality cameras in that scene, but if we're going to judge things based on the story alone, this doesn't really dive into any new juicy aspect of Sadie's character, which is a major shame. I don't know, maybe Sadie Killer just spoiled me too much with how well written, emotional, and painfully relatable it was, but The Big Show to me is just a quintessential average episode. Glad I saw it once, but I wouldn't seek it out again. Number 3 best, A Single Pale Rose. I already made a whole video containing my thoughts on the pink diamond reveal itself, so I won't go too much into that. Instead, let's go over the quality of the episode it came from, and what a perfectly woven narrative it is. Things start off simple enough with Amethyst showing Pearl the ins and outs of her cell phone, but as soon as Steven questions Pearl about Pink Diamond shattering, the true emotional roller coaster begins. The idea of sending Steven further and further into the past via Pearl's repressed memories is such an effective storytelling technique. The reveal is fed to us piece by piece with each time jump, keeping me constantly on the edge of my seat and dying to know more. Plus, each memory gives us a real sense of Pearl's emotional state during some iconic events, like the end of the Gem War and Rose's decision to have a child. And trust me, she has every right to be traumatized by her past. Faking a shattering for one person and seeing all of your friends destroyed in front of you, only to hear the news that the person you did all this for is leaving you anyway? It's a really sad story when you put all the pieces together, and the feelings that Pearl goes through as a result are very well communicated. Say what you want about the aftermath episodes or the direction they take certain characters after the reveal, but if you asked me my opinion on this story in particular and how effective it was at unveiling Pink's true identity, I don't think they could have done it any better. I can easily say that searching for someone's phone has never made me this emotional. Number 2 worst, Dewey wins. Yay, an episode involving politics! And it's just as exciting as it sounds. Like a lot of Steven Universe fans, I don't exactly get excited when I hear that there's a new Mayor Dewey episode coming out. He's easily one of the weakest human characters in the show, and aside from portraying how useless certain politicians can be, there's not a whole lot to him. And when you put him in a boring slog of an episode about a mayoral election that does nothing but show you how unlikable of a person he can be, it's very difficult to find much worth enjoying. There are also some really awkward moments of dialogue, like when Steven word for word says that after Dewey forfeited the election, he felt
betrayed. That's probably how Connie feels.
Not only is that really on the nose and weird for Steven to say, but I don't think the two situations are really that comparable, since Steven and Connie are the best of friends, and Steven and Dewey are mostly just acquaintances, so the emotional bond isn't nearly as strong and just feels like a forced parallel. To be fair though, there are two elements of this episode that I do like. First of all, I enjoyed Nanaqua's speech where she explains that there's more to being a leader than just taking all the blame. A good leader works with their followers instead of just working for them, and I believe that a mindset like that can help build a strong sense of community, and is way more effective than just sweeping things under the rug and pretending they never happened. Heck, it's been proven to be effective in episodes like Letters to Lars and Reunited, so I gotta give props to Nana for a great strategy. And a great pun. Also, Dewey throwing the election was pretty noble. He knew that Nana would make for a better leader than he ever could, and he willingly let her take his place, finally thinking more about the people instead of himself, which is a nice bit of growth from him. It's a pretty boring episode overall, but in regards to character development, I gotta give credit where it's due. E. Yeah, sorry, I had to. Number 2 best, Back to the Kindergarten. I've already gone on record saying that Peridot is my favorite gem. She has the best redemption arc, some of the best comedic moments, and is the star of some of the best Steven Universe episodes period, like Too Short to Ride and Log Date 7152. But this episode in particular was a huge surprise, not only because of the tone, but because of the dump truck of emotional reveals that Peridot unleashes on all of us. Now, we all know that it's very common for a character in the show to get sad every now and then, maybe even have a good cry and hug a loved one, but Back to the Kindergarten goes way past the realm of simple sadness, and instead tackles full-on depression. Peridot isn't just upset that Lapis and her home are now somewhere in space, she is completely destroyed. Her entire life was literally ripped right out of the ground right in front of her, and now she has to deal with the feeling of losing everything she ever loved. Obviously, tackling depression is a really tall order for any show to fill, but I think the Crewniverse pulled it off really freaking well. They portray depression not as a constant storm of sadness that's always pouring down on the victim at all times, but instead as a dark looming cloud that's just overhead waiting for the perfect moment to strike. You can still interact with loved ones and continue about your daily life, but that cloud will always be there. And no matter how hard you may try to apply bandage solutions to stave it off, it won't go away until you tackle it at the source. And at the end of the episode, that's exactly what Peridot does, letting all of her pent-up emotions out by having a good scream and a good talk. And while she doesn't immediately go back to being happy, that little hug at the end does show that she's slowly starting to get her hope back. Recovering from depression happens gradually, and I'm glad they portrayed it as such. Throw in some genuinely charming bonding moments between Steven, Amethyst, and Peridot, and you have an episode as effective as it is adorable. Number 1 worst, Kevin Party. Jeez, what a boring title, and how fitting that it belongs to a painfully boring episode. I feel the same way about Kevin as I do about Dewey. I don't despise him or anything, but if there was never another episode involving him, I would have been perfectly fine with that. He's just such a one-note jerk, doing things only for personal gain or just because it's funny. There's nothing wrong with selfish or jerkish characters, mind you, they could be pretty fun. But Kevin has no real charm or charisma or anything worth liking. To the writer's credit, they do at least try to give him some depth with a bit of backstory near the end, but it's not really enough to justify liking him. On top of that, the plot is so basic. It's the cliche story of a kid trying to look cool in front of their friend or crush, and in the end realizing it's better if you just be yourself. Nothing stands out at all. The visuals are incredibly bland, with 90% of the episode taking place at this plain house party, with no unique decor or anything. I guess they were trying to hammer home just how lame the party is without Stevani, but it's not fun to look at all. And I know I've said this before, but that montage music is just terrible. It sounds like the dying moans of an electronic goat or something, and it makes an already boring scene even worse to watch. As per usual though, I did find something enjoyable about the episode. Steven and Connie's reunion was really nice. They were able to pour their hearts out to each other in person, let out all those feelings that were persisting throughout 5 episodes, and it was a pretty satisfying way to end things off. It's ironic that Kevin spent the whole episode telling Steven not to show any emotion, when letting his emotions fly was exactly what ended up fixing the problem. But aside from closure for that story arc, this episode has pretty much nothing to offer. In the words of Kevin himself,
"This is forgettable."
And if this is what all his parties are like, you'll get no RSVP from me. And the number 1 best episode of Steven Universe Season 5 is Pool Hopping. Yup, a seemingly throwaway episode where Garnet and Steven be spontaneous for a day is my number 1 pick of the season. And I made this choice because, well, it truly encapsulates the best elements of the series. At the end of the day, Steven Universe isn't about big climactic battles or flashy fusions or lore of the Gem's homeworld. While those things are cool, the true draw of the series is its character cast and how they develop over time. Lore and battles mean nothing if you don't care about the people involved, and episodes like Pool Hopping help to remind me why I love these characters so much. Everything involving Garnet here is just pure gold. From her goofy, unpredictable behavior, to her wise, informative speeches about future vision, to her big emotional realizations. All the strange, improbable outcomes that came from Steven's decisions have changed a normally wise and collected character into a nervous, uncertain mess. Heck, she's so paranoid about the unexpected that she thought simply being random would cause everything to make sense. But in the end, she realizes that she doesn't need to explore every possible future, she just needs to change her general way of thinking. She needs to factor in new variables, like the fact that Steven is growing up, which we clearly see as he's able to calm her nerves in the midst of her breakdown, illustrating just how mature and capable he is now. Seeing Garnet as weak and helpless and Steven as strong and independent really shows how far we've come in 5 seasons, and when push comes to shove, seeing the characters grow is what helps the show keep its magic, at least for me. This episode has everything. Fun comedy, great premise, excellent continuity, and a gooey emotional core at the center. Plus kitty cats, which are always a plus. I know it's a pretty unorthodox pick, but it's easily my favorite episode of Season 5. Well, that's about it for today. If you want to see me recap the other seasons, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.